Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to do a pack opening and sealed deck building. This is the second of two decks that I am building in sealed, and you can find links to the other deck in the description box below. Once I open these packs, lay out the cards, I'll be building a 40 card sealed deck, and then I will be playing that deck against the other deck that I built, as well as against the challenge decks from Theros. But to get started, let's open up these packs and see what's inside. Alright, we have a Raging Crunch, what a name. A Gideon's Sacrifice, Teferi's Time Twist, Spark Reaper, Courage in Crisis, Centaur Nurturer, Lazatop Reaver, Defiant Strike, Erratic Visionary, a Guild Globe, a D-Spark, a Dovin's Veto, Ob Nixilis the Hate Twisted, and Casualties of War at rare. Then we also have a Forest and an Assassin token. Pack 2 gets us a Kior's Dambreaker, a Raging Crunch, Gideon's Sacrifice, Teferi's Time Twist, I think I've seen this pattern before, Return to Nature, Shriek Diver, Snare Spinner, Toll of the Invasion, Trusted Pegasus, Band Together, a Johnny's Pridemate, Tyrant Scorn, Jaya Venerated Fire Mage, Time Wipe, Island and Zombie Army. Pack 3 gets us a Crush Descent, Chain Whip Cyclops, Spark Reaper, Forced Landing, Ob Nixilis' Cruelty, Jaya's Greeting, Totally Lost, Centaur Nurturer, Iron Bully, Erratic Visionary, Devouring Hellion, Gleaming Overseer, Kaya Bane of the Dead, Mobilized District in rare, and a Plains and a Citizen token. Pack 4 has a Gideon's Sacrifice, a Teferi's Time Twist, a Grim Initiate, a Shriek Diver, a Snare Spinner, Charmed Stray, Aven Eternal, Burning Prophet, Ob Nixilis' Cruelty, Jaya's Greeting, Evolution Sage, Rally of the Wings, Huatli the Sun's Heart, Command the Dread Horde, a Forest and a Soldier token. Pack 5 has a Makeshift Battalion, Casmina's Transmutation, Primordial Worm, Lazatop Behemoth, Erratic Visionary, Guild Globe, Chandra's Pyrohelix, Unlikely Aid, Wanderer's Strike, Heartfire, Interplanar Beacon, Tyrant Scorn, Dovin Hand of Control, Soul Diviner, Mountain, and a Zombie Army token. And our last pack awards us an Invading Manticore, a Bulwark Giant, a Kior's Dambreaker, another Raging Crunch, Toll of the Invasion, Crunch Wrangler, Topple the Statue, Giant Growth, Spellgorger Weird, Tamio's Epiphany, Bond of Revival, Challenger Troll, Kiora Behemoth Beckoner, Feather the Redeemed, Forest, and a Goblin token. Alright, now the next step is to go through and see which colors are strong. Starting with white. White gets us the Top of the Statue, which I think is just a sideboard card against artifacts. A Bulwark Giant, which is, I guess, an okay defensive body if you're playing some sort of controlling deck. Wanderer Strike, which is premium removal, gets rid of anything and then you proliferate. Not the worst. Makeshift Battalion is, I think, at best an aggressive body. Rally of the Wings is an okay card if you're playing a flying deck. I don't know that we are. Charmed Stray, I think this is only good if you've gotten them all, and we only have one, so I think it's pretty bad. We have Gideon's Sacrifice, which is not the best combat trick in the world. Johnny's Pridemate is good if you have life gain. If you don't, then it is just a 2-2 for 2, which is not terribly exciting. Trusted Pegasus is not bad. It lets you get your guys in. Good in an aggressive deck. We're not looking at the Sacrifice. The Defiant Strike might work in the right deck, but it would really have to be the right deck. And another Gideon's Sacrifice. So white is not that exciting. It does have the one Wanderer's Strike and some okay aggressive creatures, but not quite enough to feel like this is going to actually make it into a deck. However, if we do play white, there are some other things that we get. We could play it with blue to get Dovin Hand of Control, which is an annoying control card, along with Dovin's Veto, which is an annoying control card, along with Time Wipe, which is an annoying control card, and a board wipe, so this is very powerful. If we play it with black, then we will get Kaya, Bane of the Dead, which we don't need to necessarily play it with black, but it is good removal, as well as D-Spark, which is also good removal. So there is a reason to consider playing it with black or with blue, or possibly with both as a splash. If we play with green, we get Hotly the Sun's Heart, which is only good if you have the Butts deck with high toughness creatures, and you can't really pull that off unless you're drafting, and so I'm not really even going to bother looking at this. If you play with red, we get Feather the Redeemed, and this is a pretty good body. If you can make her work, then she does a lot of work, but we really would want to make sure that we have a fairly aggressive deck that can take advantage of her. Now let's look at blue. We have Tamio's Epiphany, which is an okay card draw spell. I think I would play it probably. Kira's Dambreaker, which is okay at the end game if you have enough proliferate synergies, but that's pretty much the only time that you'd want to see it. Erratic Visionary, I guess, is a looter if you really need it. Kazmina's Transmutation is a kind of removal. It's not the best removal, but blue doesn't get the best removal, so we might play it if we need to get rid of a creature in a hurry. It doesn't work on the zombie armies, by the way, so that's the one thing that this has a weakness against. We have the Aven Eternal, which is not a bad flyer. It gets you 3 powers over 2 bodies, 2 of which are flying, so I like this. Teferi's Time Twist is, I suppose, a decent way of getting value and fizzling your opponent's removal spells. I think it's actually pretty decent. I would play the first one, or maybe even 2 of them. Another Erratic Visionary. Totally Lost is not the best card in the world. It's a bit slow, but I guess it can be a decent tempo play. Crush Descent is kind of a poor counterspell that can be a 2-for-1, but it's usually going to be a miss. Another Teferi's Time Twist. Another Kira's Dambreaker. Another Erratic Visionary. There's a lot of Erratic Visionaries. And another Teferi's Time Twist. So blue is a support color. I think there are some interesting things that can be done here, especially with if I get there on the Proliferate plan, or if I get there with the Time Twist somehow. But there's not a lot of creatures here, and so blue would really need something that is a lot more of a base color in order to be played. Now, if we do play with blue, we get access to the Dimir colors, which will get us 2 Tyrant Scorn, which is removal, or bounce, which is pretty cool. We get a Gleaming Overseer, which is a decent card, and a Soul Diviner, which is not the most exciting card, but it does remove a counter to let you draw a card, which can be quite good, and it's a 2/3 for 3, which is pretty good. So those are pretty strong, and reasons to consider going blue. As well as Cura Behemoth Beckoner, which, if you're playing a lot of big creatures, it does draw your cards, and it lets you untap, so there's a reason to consider this. Now for black. We have Bond of Revival, which works well if you have a lot of big creatures and you can dump them into your graveyard somehow, or you just want to get them back somehow. Toll of Evasion is a card that I probably wouldn't play unless I'm really going deep on the Amass, because it's a 1/1 that's attached with a discard effect that can be good, but it might not be. Unlikely 8 is a maybe on an aggressive deck. Lancelot Behemoth is whatever. Command the Dread Horde. I think this card, if you have some way of gaining life, does have the ability to help you win the game at the end, but I think it is very hard to get working right, and so I'm not hot on it. Obnixilis Cruelty is good removal. Shriek Driver is kind of an expensive way to get in with a 2/1. I don't love it. I might play it in the right aggressive black deck, but I don't love it. We have another Obnixilis Cruelty. We have a Spark Reaper, which is one way to get advantage off of weak creatures in a Aristocrats style deck, so it's okay. I would consider playing one. Then we have another Toll of the Evasion, another Shriek Diver, and Obnixilis the Hate Twisted. He is a kind of removal, although he does reward the controller of that creature with cards, and so this is a bit hard. It is also a win condition that eventually he'll do enough damage to your opponent as long as you keep drawing cards. So I don't know how I feel about Obnixilis. I don't know if he's an early pick or not, and I don't know if he's a compelling reason to play the deck, so I'm going to put him somewhere near the back here. Probably better than Shriek Diver, I guess. Lazadot Reaver is a pretty good aggressive body. You get 2 power and 3 toughness for 2 mana, so I like that as an aggressive body and something that you can sacrifice to maybe a Spark Reaper. We have another Spark Reaper. I think black is okay here. Black has some good removal and some other okay cards, but this is not the most exciting black set of cards. Now if we play black, we can get the Kaya and Despark again, as well as Casualties of War, which is a major multi-card destruction card, and so there is a reason to consider going black. Now for red, we have a Spellgorger Weird, good in the spells deck. Raging Crunch, which is a pretty good body as long as you can have enough creatures to attack with it. The Invading Manticore, which I think is okay. You do get a lot of power and toughness over 2 bodies, but it is on the expensive side. Heartfire, which can be good if you have a deck that has a lot of creatures that you can throw away. Chandra's Pyrohelix, I think can be okay. It's a bit on the weak side, but you can split up the damage to get rid of X1, so there is a reason to maybe play it. But it's not the best removal. Not like Jaya's Greeting, which is a really good removal spell. The Burning Prophet goes well in a Spells Matter deck, like the Spellgorger Weird, so we'll put it next to each other. The Devouring Hellion, it's really all in, and you need a lot of things that you want to sacrifice in order to take advantage of it, so I'm not high on it. I might play it in a deck if it's able to go wide, but I don't love it. Another Jaya's Greeting. Chain Whip Cyclops, I guess it's okay as a body, but you know, it's not definitely a reason to play. We have Jaya Venerated Fire Mage, who is 2 shocks on a body, and then it deals additional damage. So it makes all the red spells that we cast deal additional damage, which is kind of cool. It's not amazing, but it's kind of cool. And so I would like it more than a Chandra's Pyrohelix. Then we have a couple more Raging Crunches, so we're all up on the crunches here. Red is not bad. It's got quite a bit of removal, and then a little bit of creatures that are sometimes decent bodies. So there's a reason to consider this. The Grim Initiate also works well with the Chandra's Heartfire. I missed that. I think it must have gotten stuck behind another card. So there is a reason to consider red. And red would also get us the Feather, as I mentioned before. Finally, green. We have a Challenger Troll, which is a pretty darn good body. Giant Growth, which is an okay combat trick. The Crunch Wrangler, which does really well with big creatures like the Challenger Troll, but that's the only time that we're going to want it. Of course, there's another big creature, the Primordial Worm. It's kind of expensive, not the best body, it's kind of dumb, so I don't love this one, but at the same time, with the Challenger Troll, it does become quite the threat, but not a reason to play green. Evolution Stage can go really well if you are playing a deck with enough +1/+1 counters. Right now we don't have anything in green, so I'm not going to value it highly, but it is not bad for what it is. The Snare Spinner is just a defensive creature, not something that we love. Centaur Nurturer can get us to cast our big creatures, and so it's not bad as ramp and fixing, and it holds back of your opponents while giving you life, so I think I like it a bit. Forced Landing is strictly sideboard. Band Together is a kind of removal. We have another Snare Spinner. Then we have Return to Nature, which is strictly sideboard, another Centaur Nurturer, and a Courage in Crisis, which is one of those ways to get counters on creatures and proliferate. However, there's not much in the way of counters anywhere in this deck, or in this deck of cards, and so we really want to get counters in another way. And we talked about all the things that we could also play, but green doesn't look like it is exciting. Right now, it looks like red and black are kind of our strongest cards, but there might be a reason to play blue and black, or white and blue, because we have so many strong cards in certain color combinations. So we'll go ahead and take a look at those. And just to fill out the possibilities, we're probably not playing Interplanar Beacon unless we get a lot of Planeswalkers, so this is not the coolest thing in the world. Mobilized District we might play, because it does just end up turning into a creature in the late game. We have some fixing in the Guild Globes, but I don't love those, and the Iron Bully is, I guess, a way to get Proliferate started. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look at the Feather-inspired red and white deck and see what comes of that. This is pretty thin. We don't have much that works well with Feather. She's just basically going to be a 3-mana 3/4, which is not something to sneeze at. But at the same time, we're really playing with a bunch of subpar cards here in order to enable a card that isn't all that exciting. I think the biggest weakness is that white is just really thin on playables. So white I don't think is a core color. But just to make sure, we're going to try white and blue because we had Time Wipe and some other powerful cards. This is way too thin of a deck. I mean, what am I trying to do here? Trick my opponent with Teferi's Time Twist to bounce an Erratic Visionary and make it come back as a 2/4 to eat something? All I have is Time Wipe. This is pretty much the deck. Time Wipe the deck. Hopefully I can get a 2/1 or a 3/1 and then get there after that. No, this is not going to work. Blue and white is done. I think white is done, except maybe as a splash. So we'll go ahead and get rid of white. Alright, well we got blue going, so let's go ahead and see how blue pairs with black. Alright, this is something more of an okay deck. Again, we have a bunch of really junky cards that we're going to be playing in order to make this work, and that I see as a bit of a problem. But you know, we have some amount of power in the removal section between the Tyrant Scorns and the Obnic Silice's Cruelty. We have ways of getting rid of our opponent's best cards there. I don't think Unlikely Aid fits into this particular deck. And then late game finishers are still the Curious Dambreaker. The Proliferate really doesn't have much of an impact on this deck because there's not a lot of zombies to be made. And so, this is not an amazing deck, especially since, you know, we don't get really much advantage out of that Gleaming Overseer. So I do not think that this is the deck, despite the fact that there is some decent removal here. Let's match up black and green to see what happens if we try to get Casualties of War online. Alright, it looks like a black and green deck is a bit thick on the 3-drop section. We don't have the greatest removal here. Our threats are primarily the Challenger Troll and the Primordial Worm. And there's not a lot of synergy with the Spark Reapers here. And so I think this is probably going to just be too thin of a deck to play. No matter how good Casualties of War is, I don't think that this can work. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. Maybe we'll try green and red and see if there is a deck there. Alright, there are a lot of creatures here with decent bodies. The removal is a bit limited, but we have the 2 Giants Greetings, the Pyrohelix, Band Together. Courage and Crisis is a way to pump some of the creatures, but we don't have a lot of counters going here, so it's not really that exciting. We could also play the Cura's Behemoth Beckoner here because we have a lot of creatures with 4 more power, and so we would be able to draw a bit. And this kind of feels the most like a deck. We're trying to work our way to something expensive in the Invading Manticore, the Primordial Worm, or the Challenger Troll to get in there. The crunches are really, really aggressive, and we have enough non-creature spells that even the Weird and the Burning Prophet might get in there. So this looks like it can actually be a deck that works. And with the Centaur Nurture, we can actually splash for other cards that might share a red or a green, but I don't know what that would be. So maybe this is the deck. Red and green, just big monsters. It's a little bit basic. There's nothing that is really exciting in it that's going to make you feel like you're getting there. But it has a lot more consistency, just in terms of what it's trying to do. So I guess this is it. Let's count some cards and see what we'll need to cut. We have 16 creatures and 9 spells, so we just need to make 2 cuts. Probably not playing any of this. Maybe the Mobilized District. And I think the cuts that we make are... The Grim Initiate, I think, doesn't have enough of an impact here. And I think we don't have the flexibility to play a Heartfire. That takes us to 15 creatures and 8 spells. I think that might still be enough. We're basically going to play defensive until we can land a Raging Crunch, grow the Spellgorger Weird, or play one of our top end threats here. There's only a tiny bit of synergy with the evolution stage, so we're mostly playing it as a 3-2, but if we can get the Crunch Wrangler or the Spellgorger Weird going, or maybe a zombie army from the amass token here, then maybe it will be more than just a 3-2. But for the most part, we're just trying to get to one of these big guys and get in for the win. Or make the Spellgorger Weird big, or just be super aggressive with the Raging Crunches. So, alright, I guess this is the deck. Now we have to figure out our land situation. So we have 11 red and 13 green, and so we're going to go just slightly more green. And we're probably also going to play this creature just because we can, really, and the Centaur Nurturers kind of help deal with the fact that we're going to be short a little bit in colored mana. So we'll just go 8 and 8 even, because we do want to get one of these green creatures down early. So here's 8 mountains and 8 forests. And that is the deck. Let me know what your thoughts were about this deck in the comments below. If you would have built it differently, let me know so that I can learn from your wisdom. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time when I pit this deck against its rival.